and we're back with the second section of 23.2. We're going to quickly go through this one. This one we won't take as much time on it. We left off talking about the space program. All of that was domestic, how Reagan is fixing America, how Reagan is improving America, talking about the economics, talking about internal matters within our country. So now let's broaden our scope to the world. How did Reagan affect the world? Now, Reagan's mindset was communism, and we're going to stop communism. So, this was termed the Reagan Doctrine. We've seen a lot of doctrines through American history with the president's name. So, this one, just add it to your list. We have the Reagan Doctrine. It says we are going to stop communism before they can enslave any other country. That's different from the Eisenhower Doctrine that says, listen, we are just going to contain and we are going to not drive out communism. We are just going to, if they attack, we're going to defend. Whereas Reagan is saying, listen, we are not going to let them enslave any other country. That if they try and take over a country, we're going to completely stop them in their tracks. So he is focusing on deterring communism, and he's going to be very successful in it. But a lot of major events happen. We said right when he becomes president, already Iran is scared they release the prisoners. Well, or I'm sorry, the hostages. We see several countries here. We see Poland, Grenada, South Korea, Libya, Iran, and the big one is Russia. What does Reagan do with these countries? Well, first, Poland is under communist threat, and there were a group of people that come together with this movement called the Solidarity Movement that is going to stand up to the communists. And Reagan is going to back these. He's going to support them as much as possible. And they are going to be relatively successful. The problem is the Soviets come in and they are going to impose martial law. You may have heard that with this whole quarantine thing. People are claiming, oh, martial law is instituted. The martial law is essentially the government using force to take over. This military rule that the military is in charge. So martial law is imposed, but Reagan is going to fully support the Solidarity Movement in Poland to stop the communists. Again, that's what he's trying to do. Another one is in Grenada. You can see the picture on page 373 of the child standing in front of the wall. Grenada is an island in the West Indies, and Fidel Castro has his eyes on Grenada because this can be a launching point of his army into South America and spread communism throughout South America. So this is Fidel Castro's mindset, but Reagan says no. Communists or Cubans, specifically the communist Cubans, get out of Grenada. You should not be there at all, or we will come and get you out. So Fidel Castro will eventually have to pull out of Grenada because of the U.S. presence that's there. And you see signs like this scattered throughout the country where the Grenadians are accepting and welcoming the U.S. troops. They're happy that they're there to stop the communist influence. Another country that tries to defy freedom is it's really the Soviets in North Korea and in China that are targeting South Korea. There was this South Korean flight that was mysteriously shot down by the Soviets, and now it comes to a tense point because there were Americans on board. So Reagan stands up and he does not accept this as an accident. He does not accept this for anything other than essentially an act of war. So he calls it out as such and says, listen, you have to take care of this or we will go to war, and the Soviets will take care of it. They do not want to go to war against Reagan. El Salvador, we mentioned the communists are spreading through Central America. One is Nicaragua, especially. This is where we see the Iran-Contra movement because the Contras are located in Iran. Now, the Contras are located in Nicaragua. So we have Soviets in Nicaragua trying to take over and then we have the Iranians and the Soviets trying to focus there. Now, what the issue is, where's the support going to go? And Oliver North is going to move the support, the aid, to the Contras in Nicaragua. Well, long story short, the Contras don't win, and it was all for naught. And now North is looking at trials for the decisions that he made. He will be on trial in Congress. They'll find him guilty in Congress. They'll claim him guilty, so they will send him to trial, but the trials can never convince or convict him of being guilty. So this is a kind of fail on the part of Reagan doctrine of keeping the communists at bay. But the last success story is al-Gaddafi, that he is targeted West Berlin and he killed several American soldiers. So Reagan is not going to allow for the loss of American life. So he is going to go after Gaddafi, mainly with words first. Gaddafi is going to back down, and he will subside his threats. Now, the last thing I want to mention is Gorbachev. Gorbachev and Reagan had a pretty interesting relationship because they talked a lot. Which here you have the leader of the free world, here you have the leader of the communist world, but the communist leader, Gorbachev, was very relaxed compared to all the other Soviet Union leaders. So he and Reagan are going to try and get along as much as possible. Gorbachev is wanting to build the Soviet Union, well, I should say Russia up, not necessarily the Soviet Union. So Gorbachev is going to talk with Reagan and they are going to agree to take away their nuclear warheads from Europe. This was huge. This sees the Cold War going down and tensions are releasing. Well, Reagan's going to challenge him and say Reagan is going to go to West Berlin. Remember, they had the wall built. Communists built the wall. And Reagan, you see a picture on 375, is standing right in front of that wall. You can see it pictured in the back. So Reagan points to this wall and he says, Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. The crowds go wild and everyone's super excited. Now the ball is in Mr. Gorbachev's hands. What's he going to do? Is he going to stand up to Reagan? Or is he going to accept Reagan's plea to tear down the wall? Long story short, he does tear down the wall, and this is a huge accomplishment. Now there's no more Berlin Wall, and Gorbachev subsides. Now, what Gorbachev agrees to, and he finally really kind of takes down the Soviet Union by asking for help. He asks the West for help. He starts spreading this perestroika throughout Russia, which means reconstruction. So he wants to reconstruct Russia. He still wants to keep communism. He is not going to give up on communism. But he's going to add free market economy and free enterprise mindset into communism. And that's the only way he's able to build Russia up, economically speaking. Which is going to open up to an even bigger mindset called glasnost, which is this openness. We are open to accepting the outside ideas, specifically the free market economy. So these two mindsets that Gorbachev brings, perestroika and glasnost, really kind of dissolves the Soviet Union. And Gorbachev is really kind of the relaxed communist leader. And then you have Reagan's firm personality really brings down the Soviet Union. So Reagan leaves this tremendous legacy behind, and it's very hard to fill his shoes. The next president we're going to see is George H.W. Bush, which was Reagan's vice president. He's going to try and fill Reagan's shoes. So we'll see next time what Bush does.